Hello peoples! As someone who's been making psychology videos all week, I'm gonna say something that I never thought I would ever say. I am happy to be back here making calculus video. This unit is worth 10 to 15% on the AB exam and 6 to 9% on the BC exam. As a reminder, I have taught myself this course to be able to teach it to all of you, and all I ask in return is a cheeky follow on the ye old Instagram. Anyway, let's get into Unit 4. So this unit seems actually quite simple to me as I just recently learned it. So I hope this video isn't too long. So let's remind ourselves of something I said in the first ever video I made on this channel.
Input values are the domain of a function and the independent variable. Output values are the range and the dependent variable.
Wait, did you catch that? X's are your independent and Y's are your dependent variable. So by that reasoning, slope would be the change in dependent over the change in independent. Moving on, let's go over some basic things here. If the derivative at a point in a function is positive, it means the original function is increasing. If the derivative at a point in a function is negative, then the function is decreasing. Let's do an example here and say Maximum Insight, the YouTube channel, makes on average 1 video per day, and we model that with the function v of x, where x is measured in days. V of 5 equals 5 would mean on day 5, I would have produced 5 videos. V prime of 5 equals 1 means on day 5, I would be making videos at a rate of 1 video per day. If it were V double prime of 5 equals 1, then that would mean on day 5, the rate at which I'm making videos is increasing by 1 video per day. And no, the doubling there wasn't a mistake. My first derivative, or rate, is now increasing, which is why it is per day, or simply per day squared. So now we get to talk about derivatives in context. Let's call our original function s of t. If you are at all familiar with physics, you'll notice s of t is the function for position. So if our original function is position in relation to time, the first derivative would be velocity, or v of t. The derivative of velocity, or the second derivative of position, is acceleration, or a of t. So now that we know this, we get to talk about a bunch of physics stuff. So let's blast through all this. Speed is not the same as velocity. Rather, speed is equal to the absolute value of velocity. The way to tell if something is speeding up or slowing down is to look at the signs in front of velocity and acceleration. If velocity and acceleration have the same sign, the particle is speeding up. If velocity and acceleration have different signs, the particle is slowing down. Displacement is something a little different. It is the net distance from your start to your end position. That means if you were to travel 100 meters from your starting position, then come back 60 meters, 40 meters would be your displacement, as that is the distance from your start to end position. A particle is moving up, or right, if the velocity is positive, and if velocity is negative, the particle is moving left, or down. Average velocity on an interval— wait, pause for a second. What is velocity? Well, velocity is the first derivative of position, meaning average velocity is average rate of change, which means average velocity on an interval is just the average rate of change formula. Alright, let's go over a few examples now, like this one. In this velocity function, is it speeding up or slowing down at t equals 1? First, we find the acceleration function by just doing the first derivative. Then we plug in t equals 1 into each of the functions, and for velocity it is -3, and for acceleration it is +2. Because the signs are different, it means it is slowing down. Alright, next one. Find the average velocity over the interval 2 to 5 for this function. Pretty easy, all we do is put the average rate of change formula on the screen, plug everything in, and solving we get 6. Okay, final one. Find the displacement in this function between t equals 0 to t equals 4. The way we solve this is pretty simple. It would just be s of 4 minus s of 0. So let's plug in what each of them are. In solving, we get -32. The negative doesn't really mean negative here. It just means the particle ended up 32 units to the left. Alright, moving on to something a little more difficult. Related rates. So I think the best way I can start to talk about this is by going back to implicit differentiation. We used this example before, if you remember. You might wonder why we only put the dy dx next to y values when we differentiate. Well, it's not as if we were simply ignoring the x value. I mean, yes, we can put the dx next to the x values too, but in this case, the derivative of x with respect to x is simply 1, so you don't really need to have it there. We don't know what the derivative of y with respect to x is, so we do need it. So now just keep that in mind when we go into related rates. Also keep in mind that t, or time, will be your new x. So everything now will be be differentiated with respect to t instead of with respect to x. Here is the problem we'll solve. If y squared equals 5x cubed minus 4x, and at the moment when x equals 2, we know the derivative of x with respect to t is equal to 3, find the derivative of y with respect to t. So first thing we do for any of these problems is to list out what we already know and don't know. We know x equals 2, we don't know what y is equal to, we know dx dt is equal to 3, and we are trying to figure out what dy dt is. So now let's differentiate this function. But this time we are not going to ignore anything, so we will put the dx's and the dy's next to each term. So we get 2y times the dy dt equals 15x squared times the dx dt minus 4 times the dx dt. So looking at our derivative equation, we know what x is, we know what dx dt is, so all we need to know to find out dy dt is to figure out what y is. So let's go back to our original problem and plug in what we know is x and solve for y. After some simplifying, we get y is equal to the square root of 32. Technically it'd be plus or minus the square root of 32, but for our purposes, let's just pretend like the minus isn't there, alright? So now that we know everything, we go back to the derivative function we solved and plug in everything. First, we simplify the right side, then we divide over the left side, do some more simplifying, and we get dy dt is equal to 21 over the square root of 2. And yes, you can rationalize it if you'd like. Okay, so this right here on the screen is related rates, but this is it in its simplest form. Sorry to say, but you're not going to see something like this on the AP exam. Instead, you will see something like this, a word problem or scenario. We will go over two examples of this. First is a simple rectangle problem. So first things first, I will write out a rectangle. We know rectangles have three things: length, width, and area. As I read out this problem, we'll label what they give us. A rectangle has a constant width of 5 centimeters. Cool, so w or width equals 5. Its length is increasing at a rate of 4 centimeters per second. So the rate of length or dl dt is 4. At the exact moment when the area of the rectangle is 100 centimeters squared, great, so the area or a is equal to 100, how fast is the area increasing? So we are given w, dl dt, and area. What they are asking us to find is dA dt. So what we can write out here is the basic elementary equation of area is equal to length times width. And now, before we plug in anything, let's take the derivative of the entire function with respect to time. But whoa, before you do anything that looks like this, look at the function, buddy. It's the product rule. So we do the derivative of the first, then leave the second alone, plus leave the first alone, then the derivative of the second. Now let's plug in everything we know. We are trying to find dA dt. We know dl dt is 4, w is 5, L, which we can figure out by plugging everything into the earlier equation, is 20, and dw dt is 0, because in the problem it said width was a constant. Finally, we do some simplifying and we get dA dt is equal to 20 centimeters squared per second. Okay, now one more related rates problem. Two straight roads meet at a right-angled intersection. Road A runs north-south. Road B runs east-west. A runner is moving north along Road A at a speed of 6 feet per second. At the same time, a cyclist is riding east along Road B at 10 feet per second. At a certain instant, the runner is 30 feet north of the intersection and the cyclist is 40 feet east of the intersection. Let C be the distance between the runner and the cyclist. At that instant, how fast is the distance between them changing? Okay, let's draw a diagram to make this easier. Road A runs north-south, so up-down. Road B runs east-west, perfectly perpendicular, and two people are on the roads. The line in the middle is the distance between the two people. And, oh my, look at that, we made a triangle. So here's the TLDR. If you ever see a triangle be made with a related rates problem, just please write out the Pythagorean theorem. It's most likely always going to relate to the problem in some way. Now we can write out what we know and don't know. dA dt is equal to 6, dB dt is equal to 10, A is equal to 30, B is equal to 40. We don't know C, but we can find it with the Pythagorean theorem, and doing that quickly, C is equal to 50, and we are solving for dC dt. So simply, let's start with the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now let's differentiate. So 2a times the dA dt plus 2b times the dB dt equals 2c times the dC dt. Now we can plug everything in. Then after a bunch of simplification, we get dC dt is equal to 1160 over 100, or 11.6 feet per second. And that is all you have to do for related rates. This is the hardest thing you'll have to do in this unit, so feel free to rewatch it if you really need to. A few more things to talk about and we can be done. First off is that sometimes you'll be given a graph and asked to estimate a value using a tangent line of a point nearby. Like for example, in this graph, the tangent line at x equals 3 could estimate what the y value is at x equals 4 because the tangent line is very close to the original function. The simple way to do this when looking at one of these problems is to first create the point-slope equation, then plug in the x value it wants you to approximate the y at, then solve and you get your approximation. The only thing you need to know is that if the original graph is concave up, then that linear approximation will be an underestimate. If the graph is concave down, the linear approximation will be an overestimate. Final thing. What the heck? No chance this guy's name is actually L Hospital, right?
L'hôpital.
What the f? How the hell does this turn into this? Whatever, so this guy named L'Hôpital, nope, we're calling him Hospital. Hospital over here created a rule to evaluate limits. Essentially, if you've done direct substitution on a limit and it evaluates to 0 over 0 or infinity over infinity, then and only then, you can basically take the derivatives of the numerator and denominator and solve them to get your answer. Remember, this can only be used if the limit evaluates to 0 over 0 or infinity over infinity. And Unit 4 is over. I'm running out of lines here, so do me a favor and watch this video and subscribe to this channel. And my goodness, this unit just seemed a lot easier than prior ones. Maybe it's just me, but this all made much more sense to me than all the chain rule stuff, all the trig differentiation stuff. This unit was just much cleaner for me. But hey, let me know how it was for you in the comments. Toodaloo!